This is the start of side 2. And we now return to local news with Joan, who will start with sport.
George Borg believes his Enfield town side are beginning to look like a proper team after the Towners claimed their first Ryman Premier, their first win for over 4 months last Saturday, writes Adam Newsom. A 1-0 win at home against bottom-of-the-table Cray Wanderers sealed victory for Enfield, who hadn't collected 3 points since August 31. Bertie Brayley's second-half sight from distance was enough for the Towners, who remain in the drop zone but closed the gap on the sides above them. Borg was delighted with the performance from his players and said, "It has not been easy since I arrived at the club, but the lads have been brilliant, and credit to them because they have persevered with all the things, and it was a much-deserved victory for them."
Enfield's Denise Payette underlined her undoubted potential with victory at the Cadet Masters and has set her sights on representing England. The 12-year-old, who is a member of Ellenborough Table Tennis Club, was the favourite going into the competition, and she didn't let that pressure affect her performance. The top 12 under-15 girl table tennis players in the country were in action, and Payette was unbeaten in her opening 6 matches. The Enfield County School pupil then faced clubmate Zana Hall and was victorious in straight sets. She took on previously unbeaten Kate Nixon, and Payette again proved too strong as she claimed a 3-1 success. Payette was beaten by Kate Cheer in her final game, but the result was irrelevant, as Cheer lost to Nixon, which guaranteed the Enfield youngster the championship title.
And I have sport. Enfield Ignatians suffered a disappointing home loss against Holt, as Emil Hertz's side went down 38-17 in London 2 North East. Despite a dominant first 15 minutes, Ignatians failed to tuck away some good chances, and Holt took comfort from the Blue and Gold's failings by running up a 19-5 half-time lead after landing tries from Tom Jackson, Robbie Gray and Ashley Woods. Ignatians kept themselves in the hunt following a pushover score from Wes Warren in the final minute of the opening period, and they made further inroads in the second half when winger Christian Adolfo went over. However, Holt extended this advantage following a try from Bruce Van Poorvliet before Ignatians replied through winger Tan Mbonu in the corner. But Holt completed a miserable afternoon for 6th place Ignatians by adding further tries from Woods and Matt Jerry Ryan.
Now, I have one What's On announcement. Nick Ross Orchestra, which gives the sound of the Glenn Miller era, are in the Millfield Theatre on the 8th of February at 7:30 p.m. That is all the information that they give. But sounds good because Glenn Miller was great.
He was.
Yeah. Enjoy it.
Okay. And now for What's On at the Chicken Shed. Jazz in the Bar, that's Julian Mark Stringle presents its classical. Tickets are £17 and £15, and the show starts at from 7:30 p.m. It starts at 7:30 p.m. and that's on Friday, 31st of January. That's Jazz in the Bar with Julian Mark Stringle presents, etc. Then in February, there's a week-long workshop during half-term, and it starts at 10 a.m. until 4 p.m., and that's from 17th of February to the 21st of February. And now they're taking bookings at Chicken Shed for Emerging Writers Week, which runs from 19th of February to the 22nd of Feb, and an awfully big performance, I'm not sure what that is, but it says an awfully big performance from the 7th of March to the 23rd of March. Okay, now you ring box office for further details on that one, and the box office number is 0208 292 922. That's 0208 292 922.
And I have a what's on, and that's Chicken Shed too. And it's community chorus every Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. for 2 hours. And that costs £37.50 for 5 weeks of workshops. And you have to be 21 plus years. And 22nd of January, 26th of February. And Tales from the Shed, entertaining shows every Friday and Saturday morning for 0 to 7 years, £6 from the 24th of January. And Saturday Shed performance workshops for 6 to 12 years, £6 from 25th of January. And the box office again is 0208 292 9222 and www.chickenshed, which is all one word, .org.uk.
Now, I have a letter, quite an interesting letter, from Councillor George Sava, MBE, of Hazelbury Ward on the Enfield Borough Council. The headline reads, "Shows are just as good as in West End." And he says, "I have noticed over the years that the standard of shows and plays at Millfield Theatre are now equal to those at any West End theatre. Edmonton should feel proud and privileged to have such a wonderful facility that can cater for all ages. The recent pantomime season, which staged Dick Whittington, was a musical extravaganza that saw the theatre full to capacity at every show and thrilled the audiences of all ages. No wonder the theatre critics give such good and positive reviews. Congratulations should be given to all involved in such excellent productions that have helped put Edmonton firmly on the map. As one pantomime ends, another is in the pipeline. The pantomime this year will be The Sleeping Beauty, and bookings for this show will soon be available. Reserve your seats early to avoid disappointment. The pantomime will be staged as usual in November and will run until early January 2015. In the meantime, there are other shows and family events to keep you all entertained. You can find information about these shows at the theatre or from any local paper in Enfield. Millfield House Arts Centre in Silver Street houses the public library, where you can borrow books and access computers with free Wi-Fi. There is a bistro, and a variety of classes are on offer, ranging from dancing to music, painting, and so on. Millfield Theatre is part of the community and encourages young people to participate in productions and be part of the show.
Now I have a letter from Monty Meth, who's president of the Enfield Over 50s Forum. Enfield Over 50s Forum had a letter from Jeremy Hunt's Department of Health Office dated December 19th, 2013, which states, and I quote, "NHS England is responsible for setting allocations to clinical commissioning groups, Consequently, it would not be appropriate for ministers to intervene in this matter. So your report, in brackets, extra millions for healthcare, and that was quoted in the Enfield Independent on January the 8th, is quite wrong to claim that it is government that has listened and delivered a large real terms increase in funding for Enfield. Were the MPs you quoted present at the NHS England board meeting that discussed the new formula for CCG funding? No, they were not. Our 5-member over 50s forum health team were there, and they heard Paul Bowman, the NHS Chief Financial Officer, say there had been no increase in the government's £200 billion grant over 2 years for the 221 CGs nationwide. The only increase in funding at their disposal was compensation for inflation. Enfield CCG has received an above-average inflation rise, nothing more, in recognition of the particular problems highlighted, for example, by our forum's petition and our submission of a statement we were asked to send to Mr. Bowman before the board met. Our petition was twice mentioned by NHSE Chairman Professor Sir Malcolm Grant during the board meeting. Enfield's gain, however, has meant that some CCGs have received below-inflation increases. As for the implied claim in your report that the government has given a £33 million increase for Enfield primary care, this will be news to our 52 surgeries funded directly under contracts with NHSE. Any extra money for primary care will largely depend on the CCG commissioning their services. We all know that a general election is on the horizon, and sitting MPs want to boast about their so-called achievements. So we need to be on our guard against exaggerated claims that do not match the facts.
And I have a letter from Sarah Cotton, the Palmer's Greenery. And she says, recent correspondence regarding the future of Broomfield House and the need for a decent refreshment facility in Broomfield Park. Letters, Advertiser, January the 8th. Readers will be delighted to learn, if they haven't already, of plans to open a non-for-profit community cafe in the park this spring. The Palmer's Greenery is a grassroots initiative in association with the Friends of Broomfield Park and in partnership with Enfield Council to convert the disused toilet block opposite the tennis courts into a kiosk with an indoor kitchen, a serving hatch, outdoor seating and toilet/baby changing facilities. We will be child, in brackets, and dog friendly and serve affordable, healthy and, where possible, locally sourced drinks and snacks. Staffed by volunteers from the community, all surplus generated will be reinvested directly back into enhancing the park. This project has been developed specifically as a forerunner of, not an alternative to, any future cafe in a restored or rebuilt Broomfield House, with the aim of cutting through the stalemate that has seen park visitors denied any kind of decent refreshment facility for so long. The Palmer's Greenery will provide park users not only with a say in what a future cafe might look like, but also with a cuppa and slice of homemade cake in the meantime. For more information or to get involved, visit www.friendsofbroomfieldpark, all one word, .org/cafe.php.
4 people from Enfield who performed in the Olympics and Paralympics opening and closing ceremonies will show off their skills in an annual performance. The Legacy, a yearly dance show that celebrates the ceremonies of the London 2012 Olympic Games, features volunteers from the Games. More than 15,000 volunteers took part in the ceremonies, and 40 will take to the stage at the Resolution Festival on Saturday, January the 25th at Robin Howard Dance Theatre in London. Angela Taylor from Winchmore Hill, Lynn Barker of Gordon Hill, Wendy Court of North Enfield, and Charlotte Oldhouse, who teaches at Winchmore School in the Burnham Grove, took part in the spectacular performances 2 years ago, despite having no professional dancing experience.
The director of an Enfield community singing group has set up a daytime choir for the over 50s. Singing coach Simon Gilbert, who runs the Enfield Community Singers, is planning to establish a new choir for people who want to sing but are not keen on coming out at night. The choir will meet at St Mary Magdalene Church in Windmill Hill, Enfield on Monday mornings from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. The first session is due to take place in mid-February. Mr. Gilbert said, "If you love to sing, want to learn some great songs and have a really good time, then please get in touch. For more information, call 020-8360 7386. That's 020-8360 7386.
Plans to tackle antisocial behaviour through new landlord licences have won the backing of Edmonton MP Andy Love. Enfield Borough Council has launched a consultation into licensing landlords after complaints about the state of homes. Mr. Love has had a series of complaints from constituents, including one lady who is being charged £1,400 a month for a rat-infested 3-bedroom property, which her landlord claims he cannot do anything about. The MP said, based on the number of constituents who contact me regarding antisocial behaviour by both tenants and landlords linked to private rented homes, I am convinced that introducing a licensing scheme in Enfield is the right course of action. I will be encouraging as many people as possible who are affected by issues of antisocial behaviour in private rented accommodation to take part in the consultation so the council gets the fullest picture of just how severe the problem is in parts of the borough.
Roadworks that have carved up a swathe of the M25 near Enfield did not cause a spate of serious accidents last year, a Highways Agency report has concluded. The Secretary of State for Transport, Patrick McLaughlin, commissioned the report after Enfield North MP Nick Dubois demanded the Minister urgently answered questions about why 4 serious accidents happened between junctions 23 and 25 of the M25 within days of each other. The report does, however, confirm that 3 of the 4 accidents involved a temporary safety barrier set up to cordon off the roadworks. The report states that the first of the accidents occurred on Tuesday, October the 29th, on the junction 25 clockwise slip road when an HGV driver indicated he was exiting the motorway. According to the report, the lorry clipped part of a temporary metal barrier used to segregate roadworks from the main motorway. The lorry overturned and caught fire, killing the driver. Although the second incident, which occurred on October the 31st, did not result in any injuries and did not involve a temporary barrier, the report states that the third collision on November the 1st, when 3 workers were seriously injured, and the 4th collision the next day, which left a driver and passenger seriously injured, both involved the temporary barrier. Despite the fact that the roadworks appear to be directly involved in 3 of the 4 accidents, Mr. McLaughlin wrote to Mr. Dubois to say, "In the context of other similar roadwork sites and current approaches to roadworks management, the road layout is compliant with standards, speed compliance is good, and the overall number of incidents is comparatively low." But the Secretary of State added that a more detailed investigation would follow. Mr. Dubois admits he is frustrated with some aspects of the report. He told the Advertiser, "I have taken time out to talk to haulage companies and constituents who share my concern that the traffic management makes accidents more likely and passengers very vulnerable. And this interim report worries me with its findings because it leaves more questions than answers, and clearly more work needs to be done to ensure drivers can be as safe as possible." Asked about the specifics of future reports, a spokesman from the Highways Agency said, "We have begun of safety at roadworks. Safety is a top priority for the Highways Agency, and that is why we continually monitor safety across our network, including through roadworks, and take action where appropriate. While the initial investigation into incidents between junctions 23 and 25 of the M25 last year concluded that the overall safety performance of the roadworks is good, we are not complacent and remain committed to further improving safety for both road users and road workers."
Southgate MP David Burrows has renewed his appeal for local authorities to be given greater powers to curb the number of betting shops. Mr. Burrows raised concerns in Parliament that there had been a clustering of betting shops in Green Lanes, Enfield. He called on greater powers to be given to local authorities when it came to protecting the high street from saturation. Planning Minister Nick Bowles agreed with Mr. Burrows' concerns. Speaking in Parliament about the number of betting shops is the latest step in Mr. Burrows' long-running campaign to curb numbers. In April last year, he held a protest with traders against plans for a new betting shop in Palmer's Green.
Enfield North MP Nick Dubois has demanded an improvement to inadequate train services after a spate of complaints from travellers. Rail services through the borough have been plagued by delays and cancellations in the past 2 months. Mr. Dubois and Enfield Southgate MP David Burrows met First Capital Connect's National Operations Manager and Network Rail's Area Manager last Tuesday to raise concerns from constituents. The 2 MPs gave a written statement to the services outlining at least 20 complaints made by those travelling on their line in December 2013 and early January. The line passes through Gordon Hill, Enfield Chase, Grange Park, Winchmore Hill and Palmer's Green stations before heading towards London King's Cross or Moorgate. The letter demanded a plan of action by the spring to solve the problems and set out how the companies will work together. Mr. Dubois said that he was pleased to hear that a blame game didn't ensue between the 2 companies. He said, "We were pleased that both Network Rail and the train operator were at the meeting and demonstrated a joint commitment to resolving the recent unprecedented level of poor service." He added, "I would say that the current service is inadequate, and we are expecting a swift response and want to see both Network Rail and First Capital Connect working together, mitigate the problem. I will continue to put the pressure on, and we want to see the evidence of improvements being made."
More than 60 members of the homeless community were treated to a 4-course meal at the weekend. Members of the Lancaster Road United Reformed Church held their annual Christmas and New Year's supper for people living on the streets, in hostels and temporary accommodation at the Church Hall Road, Enfield. Saturday's event is the largest of 7 suppers which the church provides throughout the year. The initiative began about 20 years ago when a young church member said he wanted to do something to help less fortunate people, explained Graham Carlyle, who coordinates the events now. We put on a 4-course meal, said Mr. Carlyle, including traditional turkey, Christmas pudding and a cheese course. It's not a soup kitchen type of affair. We have waitress service and we get a band together. Some of the guests dance. It's an opportunity to let their hair down. Everyone leaves a party bag, including things like gloves and hats, toothpaste and toothbrushes. This event was attended by Mayor of Enfield, Chowdhury Anwar. Mr. Carlyle said, I was invited to the Mayor's tea party at the Autumn Town Show and we talked about the dinner there, and he asked to come along. He seemed impressed. And Mr. Anwar told the Advertiser, it was a wonderful event and I was impressed by the significant number of volunteers. I spoke to every guest and I think they said they look forward to this particular event throughout the year. Guests come from across North London for the event, the details of which are often shared by word of mouth. Throughout last year, the Waitrose store in Palace Gardens, Enfield Town, sponsored the cost of the food at the events, which totals around £1,200 annually. The next supper will be held on February the 22nd. Anyone who would like more information can call Mr. Carlyle on 0208 364 5672.
We have reached the end of our programme for this week. Thank you for listening. So from the team of
Joan, Beverley,
and myself, Lilian, with Cassandra and Colin on controls, it's cheerio, goodbye. If you are experiencing any problems receiving your Enfield Talking newspaper, please phone Diane de Jersey on 0208 805 6578. She is your listener's representative and will be pleased to help you. Please remember to turn over the address label in your postal packet, put the cassette into the packet and return it to us as soon as possible in readiness for the next edition. The Enfield Talking newspaper will be with you again in 1 week's time.